I need to say that I was a little bit disappointed with this part 2 of Inside Out. So 2 days ago, I went to watch finally the Inside Out 2, and it's a movie that I've been waiting for a long time. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, or if you haven't watched any of those two movies, it's a Pixar animation. It's basically a story that follows a character called Riley. And the story, it's about two main things. What's happening in our minds while we go through stuff and we feel feelings. And what if feelings were their own person and they could feel and think. And in today's video, I'm going to talk about the second movie of the Inside Out. So, no major spoilers, so let's start. So, to start, I'm going to talk about the things that I liked about the second movie. I like the fact that we got the same character. It was Riley again. We watched her like being bored on the first movie, going through the first struggles in life. And in the first movie, we got presented with the 5 main feelings in her head. That it was joy, fear, sadness, disgust, and anger. And we watched how each one of those emotions had a meaning of existing, and we learned that sometimes we need to feel sadness to feel better. And in the second movie, we started with Riley finally becoming a teenager. And for most of us, it's the time when our head just gets crazy and we feel a lot of things all the time, and we can't control what we feel and we can't do anything about it, just freak out. Basically. So basically that's the premises of the second movie, and I was super excited about. And with Riley's growing up, we get to access new feelings finally, and we got anxiety. I mean, we all can relate to it. I mean, we have envy, we have embarrassment, we have boredom, and of course we have nostalgia too, but maybe it's too soon for her. So what I liked about the second movie. First, I'm going to talk about Joy, because Joy, like the first movie, she carries the movie. She is the main character. I know Riley is the actual person, but Joy is the main character in both those movies. She is the character, like in the first movie, that most develops. I feel like we are watching her developing as much as Riley developing, and her finding her meaning in Riley's life. Because when you're a kid, at least if you grow up in a good family, Joy is there all the time for you, and you get excited about things. Everything seems so playful and so alive. And when we grow up, Joy kind of loses her spotlight, and basically she's not there all the time. Not only because life's complicated, but also because when we grow up, we start feeling a lot of new different things, and the space for Joy kind of like diminished. And I know some people didn't like Joy at the first movie, but if you didn't like her in the first movie, you're going to love her in this one, because she is amazing. And most of the laughs I had in this movie, it was because of Joy. In the first movie, she was a little bit crazy, but in this movie, she is insane.
Delusional? Of course I'm delusional!
And the second thing that for me, it was great, maybe because it's a real part of my life, it's anxiety. It was the perfect character. Every time anxiety was there, and every time, and everything that happened because the arrival of the anxiety, it's perfect. They developed the story so good that we could feel the anxiety Riley was feeling just by looking at the anxiety character. And I mean, anxiety made me freak out several times in the movie, and a lot of things that she did throughout the movie, or Riley did because of the anxiety, we could feel it, everyone can relate it, and everything that happens in a good, not in a good way, but in a way you understand and you feel it, and you know that's how it happens in your mind. So Joy and anxiety for me were the two main characters, because for me Joy and anxiety were not a duo, because let's just say that when the anxiety comes in, we don't get much of Joy, but let's just say that they carried the whole movie. And I need to mention Riley, because Riley for me, it's the third thing that made the movie good. Riley, in the first movie, we don't get much of her. Of course, we have more about her feelings and few scenes with her. But in this movie, we get to really know Riley because I think she is creating the person that she's. Because when you're a kid, you're nothing much than a few bunch of feelings. But when you get to your teenage years, you start developing who you are. And they did it so good in the movie that we could feel that, oh, Riley is actually being born now because she's developing who she is. And I can say that in the first movie, I just wanted to see the feelings and how the story would go. But in this one, I was glad they put more Riley in scenes. And talking a little bit slowly fast about the other feelings, envy and boredom, I like them because I like the fact that the movie did a good job explaining that sometimes feelings have a different face than we are used to think about them. Because, oh, when you're bored, you're sarcastic, you don't have patience. That's also part of being bored. And envy, oh, we don't only envy because we hate things. We envy people that we admire. We envy things that we think are good about other people. So sometimes it comes with admiration. So these two characters, the good thing I could take from them in the story and the meaning they had in a story was about that, to show that, oh, there are some feelings that you feel, but they present themselves in a different way. And I mean, boredom and envy made me laugh several times. I don't know, they were a couple of feelings that it was funny to watch. It was funny to watch because they were there to make you feel their feelings, but also to laugh, kind of feeling related to what Riley was feeling. Talking about, of course, mom, disgust. She was a queen. I mean, Joy is the protagonist, of course. Anxiety was kind of a protagonist too, in a Deadpool way. But disgust, she carries the beauty in the movie. She not only is good to make us laugh, but she's sassy. She's a good representation of disgust. And like I said about the other feeling, it can comes in different ways. And disgust in the first movie, she was great too. But in this one, she's really smart. And she's one of my favorite characters. And her among anger, they grew so much because in the first movie, anger and disgust were there. They had their meaning. But in this one, I mean, I think they evolved so much together with Riley growing up. I mean, the way that disgust is presented and how anger is presented, those two made me feel so happy throughout the movie. Now, I'm going to talk about the feelings that I didn't like about the movie. And I know Sadness was one of the main characters in the first movie. She was so important and we all liked her in the first movie. But I hated Sadness in this movie. If she wasn't there, the movie would be the same. I mean, I don't feel like she has an importance in the story. She has her role, but it's like Indiana Jones, the movie. If didn't do anything, nothing would change. Not only I feel that she doesn't have any importance, the actual story and how things are moving, because even though she has her own mission, her own part, I feel that it doesn't change anything in a movie. But most than that, she was boring. She was annoying. I mean, in the first movie, we were all angry with Joy of how she treated Sadness. But in this movie, the part that I most laughed was about Joy kind of mocking Sadness in a lovable way. Like, oh, we all have to accept every feeling. Even if we think it doesn't matter, and she's holding Sadness and kind of pointing at her. And it's so funny. Joy made some scenes of Sadness good, but when it was Sadness talking, it was boring. I didn't like Sadness in this movie. And together with Sadness, another feeling that for me was just like a wallflower there. I mean, it didn't have a great meaning or a purpose, and it's embarrassment. And he has the role in the movie. He has things that he does in the movie. He has his importance more than sadness. But I couldn't feel anything about him. I don't know. I didn't care about him. And now we get to the thing that I really disliked about the movie. In the first movie, Riley was a kid, and we have one character that was part of her imagination because all the things that are happening in her mind. So in the first movie, we have Bing Bong, and it was brief. It was good. He had a meaning in the story. He existed for a reason, and his ending ended for a reason. But in this second movie, I feel like they just put a lot of new characters in Riley's mind just to sell toys. Because when you see Riley outside how Riley is and some of her deep secrets imagination, I just feel that they doesn't match much. Of course, they're her secrets, so hiding it, this part of her, but I just don't feel that. But they're just annoying, and they have several minutes. We could cut it all. The only good thing that makes them feel a little bit more likable, it's Disgust, because Disgust is a queen, and she knows how perfect she is. But I didn't like all those new characters they added with no reason. And another thing that I didn't like much about the movie, but it wasn't a major problem, it's that the journey second movie is really similar, if not the same, as the first movie. But I didn't like that at first. But thinking about how the story was built, it makes sense. And it makes sense when we think that, oh, those things are happening, and those things happen in our mind all the time when we go through stuff and we just lose contact with some feelings that we have. The journey was basically the same as the first movie, but I liked how it turned out to be different in the end, and the message was good, and the message was different from the first movie. I mean, the last 30 minutes of the movie, I cried a lot, and I cried a lot with Joy again, because Joy is the character that most develops. And I cried with Riley because she was struggling in a way that we all can relate to her, or at least me, that anxiety like is taking control of my life. But the thing that I think it was the problem for me in this movie is Disney, because the same thing happened with Frozen 2, at just my guess. But in Frozen 2, the writers had a story that it was bigger than the actual movie was. But Disney doesn't allow the producers and the creators to make a long movie because they think child won't concentrate in the whole movie. So they need the movie to last 1 hour and 30 minutes limit. So I think from what I saw, there were a lot of things that they wanted to be part of the story in the second movie, but they needed to cut out to make the movie shorter. And I think if they added just 15 minutes in the movie with some things that they could explore more about the things that were happening, it would be a great movie for me. I mean, I know I complained about some characters being there just to be there. And I know I complained about a bit about the story being similar to the first one, but all of those things could be okay with if we had more of the second part of the movie. I mean, we needed these 15 minutes at least. Did I like the movie? Yes. Am I going to watch it again? Of course. But I do think the movie will only be completed if they do a third movie still about her being a teenager, because this movie were more about 3 days in the beginning of her teenager's life, and I feel that they didn't have time to explore more about what's like to be a teenager. So I feel that they need a third movie and Riley growing up but still a teenager, like in the middle or in the last part of her teen years. And yeah, Riley is lesbian, we know. So that was today's video, and I tried to do it with less spoiler possible. I hope you enjoy it, and I think I'll see you in the next video. Remember to live proudly because you're fucking special. Bye!